Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Parent Guardian webinar series here at Fairfield University. Today's topic is preparing for internships, and the webinar will be hosted by Kathleen Borgman, who is our director of the Career Planning Center. We're very excited to have you join us today. You'll see there's a chat box. If you have any questions for our presenter at any time, feel free to write in that chat box. Or you can also email in to orientation@fairfield.edu and we can answer your questions that way. So I'll turn it over to Cath now for preparing for internships.
Hi everyone, and thank you for spending some time with us today. Now, let's just assume that your child has perfected their college level professional resume. Now remember, that's not a high school resume, but they've got their resume done and they're ready to move on to the next step, which is the internship. And you're wondering, okay, what should they be doing? What shouldn't they be doing? We're going to be going through some of the basics. Some of it may seem extremely basic to you, but I don't want to assume anything in terms of what your knowledge is on your end. So why should a student do an internship? Companies are increasingly sourcing their full-time entry-level positions through internships. What this means is they're using them as an extended job interview. So it's very important to take advantage of them. As a matter of fact, 75% of interns receive a full-time offer after interning, which, as you can see, increases the value of taking advantage of these opportunities. Now, I'm not quite sure if you'll be able to see this chart here, but I just wanted to show you students who were surveyed on whether or not they would be receiving an offer, what the number is. And this was done by Vault last year. 67% expected that they would get a job offer through their internship. Now, keep in mind, that does not mean that they're actually going to be accepting the position, but at least to show you that those opportunities are out there and they're to be taken very seriously. So, what does this mean for your child? We encourage students to have at least one, but actually many different experiences throughout their 4 years at Fairfield. They want to take advantage of opportunities within their discipline, but if they're not really sure and they're a little confused about their major and what they want to do, you want them to be out there just exposing themselves to what possibilities there are. Just having an opportunity to be in a business setting is a plus. Oftentimes, the student may be very strong in terms of their resume and academics, but without any kind of experience outside, recruiters are oftentimes a little leery to bring them in. This also helps in terms of allowing the potential employer to see that your child has actually taken initiative and done things throughout their full 4 years. Now, I will admit that it's very difficult for first-year students and second-year students to find robust opportunities within whatever discipline they're trying to work in. However, any type of experience is a good thing, and you need to impress upon your student about that specific issue. Now, if you recognize this typewriter, and of course it's my vintage, things have changed significantly since these were popular. Now, of course, this is kind of an exaggeration, but, you know, back when those were being used, students would often come in and they maybe would look through binders and see what types of opportunities were available, or they actually read opportunities in the newspaper. Well, we all know that that doesn't happen anymore. Everything with technology has moved everyone into a totally different type of space where you can be riding the train and looking for opportunities. There are just so many different things out there that it's challenging at best. So there are two ways that typically students will be finding their internships, and that's through networking and the internet. Now with the internet, lots of jobs and internships are on databases, of which there are many, and we'll go through that. Also, you've got company websites, you've got social media, Twitter, the works. Students should be using all of these venues to stay abreast of what's going on and find out what's really hitting the waves. Interestingly enough, a lot of the companies are actually pushing out opportunities through Twitter. So students who are paying attention to their target companies are more inclined to jump on those opportunities and be selected immediately, as opposed to those who find out about it a few days later. So they really want to be doing everything. Networking is about relationship building. It's about collecting information about opportunities that perhaps your child is interested in. It's about putting together strategies, finding out about current trends, developing contacts if maybe they're not going to be fruitful right now, but down the road, with key people that could help push your child in the right direction. Maybe they in particular can't help them, but they know other people who can. It's really about tapping into a hidden job market, of which most opportunities, whether they're internships or full-time jobs, that's where those are resting, in that hidden area. Networking is absolutely not about going right up to people and asking if they have any kind of knowledge of an internship or a job. It's certainly not easy, and in fact, it can oftentimes be frustrating. It really is about taking the time to cultivate relationships. And one thing that absolutely people have to know, it's not something that's going to take overnight. It's a process. So 60 to 80% of jobs and internships are found through contacts and connections. That's that hidden market I was referring to. Employers typically hire through referrals, and that's why the networking is extremely important. Back in the day when people were using typewriters, as I mentioned, it was not uncommon for someone to say, I have a friend, call him up, I'm sure he can help you out. It just doesn't work that way anymore. And you can't rest on the fact that you have a great GPA and that's it. You need to be doing absolutely everything. Because overall, the most influential attributes of an internship position were the major, the leadership experience the student has had, and the grade point average. It's no longer sufficient to have just a high GPA. You really need to be putting yourself out there so that employers can see that you're not just sitting there studying. If your child is having a great time at Fairfield, which we hope they are, make sure that they're really focusing in on all of those things that are necessary, such as paying attention to their studies, getting out there and getting involved in leadership opportunities or clubs, going out and volunteering, because all of these are going to play a very important role in how people perceive them and how they're looked at in reference to other people competing for positions. Now, where should they start? They should be networking or chatting with family and friends. The holidays are coming around. It's a great opportunity to start conversation. Neighbors Oftentimes, students don't even realize who their neighbors are other than Mr. Smith next door. Well, gee, he could be the CEO of a company or the head of human resources. They don't really think that way. So encourage them to get out there and have these conversations. Even coaches or former teachers, former coaches, they have connections. Tap into these areas. Maybe they have jobs back home at the mall, or an elementary school as a volunteer, or even the local Dairy Queen. You'd be amazed who comes and frequents these places. Maybe one of your customers is actually somebody who can help. So help your child understand this. Tap into alumni here at Fairfield, or alumni of the high school that they came from. And of course, there's the Career Planning Center. We know a significant number of people. And as I mentioned, Twitter and LinkedIn, all the different social media areas. Now, the very first stop that they should make is Stags for Hire. Stags for Hire is Fairfield's online job and internship database. Just last year, we posted over 2,500 full-time jobs and about 800 internship opportunities directly, with people who posted wanting to hire Fairfield students. Now, that's limited to Fairfield. However, there's another piece of Stags for Hire where they can open it up and look nationally and look at other opportunities that are out there. And then you're getting into the 30,000 job opportunities in one fell swoop. So that is a fabulous resource. Now, just like anything, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. There are general databases out there that we encourage students to take advantage of. Oftentimes, the jobs and internship databases also have jobs available on the internship side and internships available on the job link sides. So you don't want to look in one area and limit yourself. I say look at them all, no matter what it is that you're trying to go after. There are also industry-specific databases, and they are encouraged to look at them. They really are specific to an area. Perhaps your student knows that they want to go into book publishing or editorial work. Go to book jobs. That's just an example. Now, another area to consider is having your student sit down and really think about what companies or industries they want to get into. Which companies within those industries do they respect? Do they know about? Maybe they want to do some research on the up-and-coming companies that they really don't have much knowledge about. They want to start to put together a list of organizations that they will be following throughout their time at Fairfield. They want to put together as much information as they can on that company so that they're knowledgeable, but they also are going to their career or job pages on a regular basis to see what's available. Oftentimes, companies will have a specific area just for internships, and they will open up the application process and have windows of time in which they can apply. This is very specific to finance and accounting in the fall season mostly, and a lot of the other opportunities are seen in the spring. Now, with some of the more competitive companies or the ideal companies that students nationally or in some cases internationally want to work for, they may open up their window of opportunity later in the fall semester, and it's a very tight schedule. So that's why it's important for students to start thinking early on who they want to follow and who they want to apply to, so they'll know when these application periods are opening up. They can work with the Career Planning Center also to help them identify those companies and map out a timeline when they should be doing what. Not only do they want to follow the companies on their websites, they want to follow them on LinkedIn, follow them on Twitter, because as I said, a lot of them, the companies are now pushing out job opportunities on these social media sites, and you don't want to be left behind. Other strategies I would encourage you to tell your students to pay attention to: going to career fair. We just had one the end of February with over 100 organizations represented. Now, just because that time has passed, that doesn't mean that they can't take advantage of local fairs, perhaps closer to your community, or even here in Fairfield County. Once again, they need to be paying attention to what's posted on the Career Center site, but also read the paper, see what's going on outside of the walls of Fairfield. They'll want to follow the Career Planning Center at Fairfield CPC and attend as many different events, panels, lectures, Stags in the City event, participate in that. Do everything they can to make themselves more aware and educated to opportunities that are out there. They actually will have to start practicing their conversation skills. If they come to these events with alumni, it's amazing how many alumni will open themselves up to the students and assist them in making connections, maybe hosting them through the Job Shadow program we offer, or even on their own. Come on down to their company and find out what it's like a day in the life of. So encourage your students to engage constantly. Now, you might be wondering, what about internships for credit? Now, this is a great option for students, especially during the school year. You might wonder why someone might need to do it. More and more companies are offering internships for credit only, and they will require that the student work through the school. If they're lucky, they'll find an organization that actually offers credit but also pays. So that's another option. You want to have the opportunity to map out your schedule so that you have the time to go to these locations. So by doing it for credit, it frees up the student's schedule a little bit more so that they can take that block of time they normally would use sitting in a classroom and apply it to the real world setting and receive credit. Interns receive supervision on site, and the director of internships will give them guidance throughout the process. Now, as you can see here, there are certain restrictions that you must complete a minimum of 144 hours in that environment. You might have to do a paper. What we encourage folks to do, students, meet with your career or internship coordinator for your major, or for your, if it's in the School of Business, the director of internships. That person can help you map out the best route to go and explain what is necessary to complete for credit. Now, one thing to keep in mind, for credit internships are available to students during the summer, but they are not included in tuition, so you will have to pay for those credits. That's often a surprise to people, and I just want to put it out there so that you can keep that in mind. Now, we've gone through the whole process of applying for positions. They've gotten the phone call. Now what? It's important for you to encourage your child to prepare for the interview, and they do that in many different ways. Researching the organization is critical. So many times students leave an interview here on campus, and I'll sit with the recruiter and ask, how did they do? 9 times out of 10, if there is an issue, they haven't researched the company. They haven't spent the time to find out about the organization. And I don't mean just skim the front page of the website. I mean really dig deep and find out information. So encourage them to do that, because some of these things hold true looking for an internship as they do looking for a full-time job. This is a great way to practice as they move into that final stage senior year. Have your student review the 50 most common interview questions that are located on the career planning website. They should meet with a career counselor. If they're home and, summer break has already happened, but they've got an opportunity, schedule an appointment with the Career Center. We can Skype with you. We can do telephone consultations. We can do all sorts of things. Encourage them to do a mock interview. They can also take advantage of a system that we have on our website. It's called Interview Stream, where they can set up an interview and record themselves, and they can see what it's like when they're answering their own questions. It's slightly startling. Help them understand how to craft a response to a question. In fact, you might want to actually interview with them. Do some mock interviews. You also want to encourage them to print several copies of their resume and have that with them at all times during the internship and during the interview, because you never know when an opportunity is going to occur where you get to sit with someone else and share the information about yourself. Once again, the internship is also a perfect way to continue to network, grow that web that you're building. Just a reminder, no matter what the position, they will need a suit, at least for the interview. Once they get the position, okay, maybe it's more business casual, but they need the suit for the interview, for the career fair, for site visits, for all sorts of things, including nursing students. Nursing students require suits as well. Always a big sigh when I go into the senior session to discuss interviewing. They think perhaps they can get away without them, but that's just not the case. So once they get the internship, you want to reinforce to your student that they should be dressing appropriately. And appropriately can really span quite a vast area. However, encourage them to be modest. Last year I spoke with a student who thought it was perfectly appropriate to have a backless shirt, which was really cute, but not great for the office. She didn't understand that just by throwing on a little cardigan, that solved the problem right there. Tell them to pay attention to the position they're in and the work they're doing during that 8-hour period. That means no cell phones, no headphones, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's a common complaint that employers have. Not about Fairfield students, of course, but we hear across the board about students in general in internship positions. They tend to look to those distractions a little more than they should. Students should treat feedback as a gift, because this is an opportunity for them to grow and to learn the appropriate way to conduct themselves while in a setting. They should use their time wisely and always meet deadlines. Excuses do not fly. I stress again, an updated resume with them at all times so that they can distribute it when the need arises. And really encourage them not to simply associate with interns. Have them try to meet with different people throughout the organization, find out what they do, how they got to where they are today, find out a little bit more information. This is one way for your child to start to develop a professional brand within an organization, and it will, in the long run, help them in the networking process. You want to reinforce to your student that they should be contributing while learning. Oftentimes, students will write cover letters and they say, I would appreciate the opportunity to learn about. And I often try to correct them or educate them to the fact that the employer is more interested in knowing what they can do to contribute to their bottom line and getting the work done. You learning something is important to everyone across the board, but they want to make sure that you're going to be contributing first and foremost. The intern who can help employers do more without being told what to do is an intern that's really going to get noticed and one that's going to be considered down the road for a full-time position, or at least a great reference. When the internship is over, remind your child to send a thank you note to the supervisor and to anyone else that helped them along the way. This will really help as well in terms of really sealing that impression, that positive impression that you want to have them project within the organization. Encourage them to periodically keep in touch so that when the time does come they need advice or a reference, that person remembers them clearly and has a positive impression of them. So some parent dues to keep in mind. Once again, remind your child to send the thank you to the supervisor. Encourage them to periodically keep in touch. Offer to proofread the resume and cover letter for your child. Share information that you've learned about opportunities. That doesn't mean you doing the connecting for them. Talk to your student about professionalism, how to conduct themselves, and workplace dress code. Practice asking interview questions with them, and practice having small talk. Students today need to learn how to do more small talk, especially with people who are a little bit older than they are. Sometimes that's a little difficult. Offer support for your child. This is a stressful time, and it's often frustrating, especially for the younger students who are competing against juniors and seniors for opportunities. Everything they're doing in this process is helping to build their skills and their resiliency so that they are better equipped to handle it down the road. Now some don'ts. You had to know there were going to be some don'ts. Don't write the resume or cover letter for your child. Have them do it. And as I said, offer to proofread it. Don't make the calls on behalf of your child. Don't encourage maybe the aunt or the uncle to do these things. You really need to get your child to take the bull by the horns and do this themselves. Don't apply to the internships or jobs for him or her. Don't attend career fairs or go with your child or even without your child. Yes, all of these things have been done. Don't go on the interview with your child. If it's a transportation issue, offer to drop them off and then go get a coffee someplace and then come back afterwards. But don't go in with them. And don't think that Fairfield is going to find a position for your student because they're busy. This too comes up periodically. We will give your child the skills they need to secure an internship, but ultimately it's still up to them to apply for the position and to earn it on their own. Most of all, don't forget that this is part of the learning process, which will help to teach your child how to look for jobs in the future and make them stronger as people. Now, having said all of these things, I know that's a lot of information. Do you have any questions in particular that you'd like to ask?
All right, so we do have a few questions. I'll start with Bill's. Bill wrote in and he said that his student is interested in Octagon, but they didn't have any reps at the recent career fair. So any advice specifically on Octagon as far as a 4-credit internship goes?
Yeah, actually, Octagon has posted on our sites, and they've been working closely with the Career Center. They even came to mock interview day and participated. So I would suggest that your child contact their Career Center and say specifically that they want to speak to someone there about the Octagon opportunities. It's very, very competitive. I do want to stress that.
Great. And then we had a few questions that were emailed in. One of them is in regard to the students' social media pages. The parent says that their student has been working on them, trying to perfect them. Any tips? What does the ideal social media page look like for someone that is applying for internships and or jobs?
Well, once again, I strongly encourage your child to meet with a career counselor to go over those pages. But what you do want to do is make sure that it's squeaky clean, that it presents an image that they want to project. Now, there are various platforms that they may be using as far as LinkedIn, Instagram. Depends on what kind of internships they're going after. I tell students if they're looking to do marketing, say, and they're saying that they're in all the different marketing spaces, they should have examples of their work embedded into these, into the media, social media sites. If you have a blog, an Instagram account, show off what you are skilled at doing. With LinkedIn, make sure that you have a really strong summary, that you've outlined what types of experiences you've had, what your goals and ambitions are, something professional, something that you would expect to see from one of your own colleagues. This is what you're working to have your student project and have represent their work.
Great. Tricia wrote in and said that their student says that because they aren't from Connecticut or New York, that their choices are somewhat limited. Is that true? Can you help a student like that who isn't from this area specifically?
Yes. Now, it's true that there are more opportunities from the Connecticut, New York area. However, we always have the option of tapping into folks that we know across the country. It's more than imperative for a student who's outside of this region to come to the Career Center and sit with a counselor and identify opportunities that would fit into your geographic preference. That is a challenge for anyone who, comes from outside of the region. However, we've had great successes. It just has to be done more methodically, not just look at, say, Stags for Hire and throw up your arms. I'm not going to find something. Done in tandem with a counselor, we can usually locate opportunities.
Great. Just a few more. One parent wrote in asking how their child's resume might be able to stand out in a pile of a couple hundred or 1,000 other resumes. Any tips for that?
Oftentimes, students put their resumes together. They have their roommates look at the resume, somebody else look at the resume. They all think it's great, and they move on. I think what's imperative is to have it reviewed by a professional, someone who looks at resumes every day. Make sure that it is set up in a manner in which it's easy to read and easy to scan. Recruiters are scanning resumes probably, 5 to 10 seconds they're scanning it. So you want to make sure that everything that's important and relevant pops out. Have it set up in such a way so that the relevant experience is up front in its own little category. Have any other types of experiences that highlight skills that the student has that are transferable, how they were used, and any concrete results. That's important as well. You really have to think through how you've put together the resume. Imperative, again, is that the student is not just spending their time studying, that they've taken advantage of clubs and activities here on campus, that they've put themselves out there, that they're really part of the community, so that an employer can see that they're the full package. More and more, we're seeing recruiters asking for people who aren't just book smart. They want people who can have great interpersonal skills, who have interests outside of school. All these things should be reflected in the resume. So I hope that helps.
Great. One more. Kind of two questions, two parts. Typically, how many internships do employers want to see, and how early on in this process throughout the 4 years here at Fairfield should students really start getting and actually obtaining internships?
Okay. Recruiters would like to see students with as many opportunities as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that a student has to really go overboard and just stress themselves out. If they have one or two, now, when I say internships, it could be any kind of an experience. It could be a job during the summer that's almost full-time within their specific area. Recruiters don't know the difference between an internship, a summer opportunity. It's all in the title. I do believe that students should start trying to secure opportunities as soon as possible. This isn't always realistic for some of the first-year students and even the second-year students, because they're competing against so many kids for the same opportunities. You know, back when I was in school, there maybe 10 people applied to an opportunity because there just was no way to get the information out about them. Now we've got recruiters who are going through hundreds, literally hundreds of resumes. So the competition is that much greater. But if they try to get something, even just in a business setting, as I mentioned before, they're on the right path. That's what they want to see. They want to see that, okay, they have embraced the opportunity to jump into the market, and they've probably learned some things. So the more opportunities they can show that they've had, the stronger they look as a candidate.
Great. I apologize. One more question. We had a parent write in asking when high school activities should no longer be on a college resume.
Oh, well, that actually could be a whole seminar in itself. High school information should be removed by the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. And I will stress to you that you also should make sure that your child, under the education portion, only has Fairfield University up top. The employers don't want to see what high school they went to. Now, with all due respect to people who went to very wonderful schools, I know that they suggest that you put that on the resume, the professional resume, because of your network. I tell the students, if that's the case, put it down under additional information, because many of the recruiters who see the high school still listed up top as front and foremost suggest that perhaps they haven't really disconnected from school and haven't moved into the next phase of their lives. So that's just another snippet for you. But students can no longer rely on the fact that they were president of the student council or class president or captain of the football team in high school. They have to start fresh. Recruiters are looking for what they've done in the 4 years they were here at Fairfield.
Great. Those are all of our questions today.
Well, I certainly hope that I've been able to educate you on some aspects of this, and look forward to speaking with you in the future.